Hello everyone, in this video we will present about the education policy in Malaysia. These are our group members that will be presenting our topic today. First of all, me, Nurul Akma binti Zainuddin. Then we have Nur IZZATI ZAHIRAH binti ZULFADLI. Next, we have ALIFAH ILYANA binti Ainul Badar, Nur AQILA UMAIRAH binti Muhammad MAZLI, and last but not least, KHAYRIN FIZANEE bin KHAYRIL YUSMAN. Our first presenter will be Miss ALIFAH ILYANA. So, without wasting our time, let's get started.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My group will present about education policy. Basically, policy may be defined as a set of guidelines for guiding decisions and achieving sensible results. It also is enacted by the government for the good of the country. A policy is a public declaration that is initiated as a procedure or protocol that is adopted by a governance body inside an institution. Policies were formed by the government to solve the country's problem. In a simple word, when a problem arises, there will be a policy that will be created to solve it. Furthermore, public policies are a structured solution to improve important and real-world issues and were guided by a concept and carried out through programs as a plan of action devised and implemented by the government in response to social concerns. Meanwhile, education policy is a set of principles and activities connected to educational problems that are or should be followed in order to achieve desired outcomes in education sectors. Education policy is also a combination of guidelines or norms that aim at increasing educational quality and educators' performance in schools and universities. National education policy plays a significant part in achieving the country's vision via education in areas of economic prosperity, social justice, power and spiritual, moral and ethical development with the goal of realizing a unified, democratic, liberal and dynamic society.
Second is education policy problem.
So the first is problem in performance appraisal. Before a company can achieve success, it must be able to assess how well its people perform and then utilize the data to identify and reward high-performing individuals, as well as ensure that employee performance not only meets but also exceeds current requirement. One of the techniques that the business might use in this respect is performance appraisal. One of the reasons for public official dissatisfaction with the execution of the law is that the difficulty with performance assessment is the new remuneration system (SSB). The issue of performance evaluation arises not just in the implementation of SSB, but also in the adoption of performance-based incentive seen in the industrial countries. Furthermore, the majority of performance evaluation systems employ subjective measuring techniques. This subjective evaluation technique is unable to capture the clear link between performance and reward. As a result, the accuracy of productivity evaluation tool will be reduced, and employees will be less willing to respond to quality-based system incentive in the future. Approval of the performance evaluation system by employees is another issue that might hinder the system effectiveness, although methods such as the adoption of more objective criteria are used. Second is mediator of communication. Intercultural communication and conversation concepts have become major role players as a result of recent advances in universal relative, new public insight categories, universal, policy and public movement and importance in conquered culture, giving significance to intercultural difference within the context of tolerance, while also fostering a conversation environment necessitates social education. Mediation training focuses on problem-solving communication skill and also include negotiation and conflict resolution training. Starting in elementary school, pupils will be educated as prospective future negotiators, which will greatly contribute to the notion of social communication and aid in the development of a cultural of agreement and peacefully coexistence in social, personal and cultural interaction. Third is multi-stream schooling system. Malaysia education system is entering the age of globalization in accordance with the needs and developments of the world. We still can see Malaysia preserving the old school structure by retaining national school, Chinese national school and Tamil national form of school until now. We still hear the problem of this school being debated as well, but so far there is no better solution yet. It has become a habit that the agenda of the government that has been going on since the colonial period always affect any action taken. Malaysians should be mindful of the value of school as a place to build healthy friendship, socialize with people from various racial and religious backgrounds. However, owing to the existence of multi-stream schools that further exacerbate the gap of diversity between the race, this effort seems to be stunned. In Chinese and Tamil national type college, the proportion of students from other nations is very low. Likewise, the speaking skill of other cultures is not extended to school subject in national school. Last but not least is infrastructure faced by students. Each school, because we already know, has its own set of rules that must be followed. The most important of which is the time we arrive at school. For morning classes, we usually come around 7:30 am and for evening session, we usually arrive around 12:30 pm. Rural students, on the other hand, have significant problem in getting to school on time. This is because they have traveled on dirt road with numerous holes produced by large vehicles. The availability of sufficient infrastructure and service for students and professionals in Malaysia has been strained by the country's rapid urbanization. To overcome this problem, education policy should repair the road in the Diping village and provide B40 with public transportation. A few schools were forced to share a sport field and were deprived of essential instructional resources. To summarize what has already been mentioned, the government and the Ministry of Education are both involved in aiding schools that require infrastructure.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is IZZATI ZAHIRAH. So, for my part, I'm going to explain about the main objectives of education policy. So, the first objective is to further solidify the national education systems for future generations. In order to accomplish Malaysia's goal of being a center of excellence for education, as well as to specify educational laws. Since independence, a key priority of the educational system has been to ensure that all Malaysian children have access to the educational opportunities available in the country. Next, the second objective of education policy is to instill and cultivate national consciousness. For example, creating common concepts, values, aspirations, and loyalties in order to shape national unity and national identity in a multi-ethnic community. After that, the third objective is to develop a manpower with the skills. It is for economic and national development. And the last objective is to instill the desired moral values in students, encourage personality and aesthetic development, as well as the sense of being responsible and disciplined, and progressively enabling them to contribute effectively towards nation building.
Next, we will take a look about the actors involved in the education policy programs or activity. The first official actors involved in making the education policy is the Ministry of Education. To create a new national education blueprint, the Ministry of Education launched a comprehensive assessment of Malaysia's education system in October 2011. In making this blueprint, the ministry sketched from many sources of input include the UNESCO, World Bank, OECD, educational specialists, principals, teachers, students, and other civilians from 6 local universities in Malaysia. An official actor is Tun Dr. Mahathir, who has published Mahathir's report in 1979, which became one of the foundations of the making of national education policy. The goal is to increase patriotism, create educated people for national growth, and expand the democratization of education policies to balance local and urban education in all aspects, while encouraging national unity in the multi-ethnic community. This report has served as a roadmap for changing the education system in Malaysia. Next, PIBG, also known as Persatuan Ibu Bapa dan Guru, is the non-official actor who involved in the education policy program. This is because they help schools and even the government to provide input on how to make the national education curriculum more pertinent to meet the welfare needs of the students. Furthermore, they are also expected to provide responses of the value of education and learning that the children have experienced. Firstly, provide equal access to quality education at the international level. The government has to rebuild school-based assessment and national exams, gradually increasing the percentage of questions that test higher level of skill. By doing this, teachers will spend less time forecasting which subjects and questions will be asked. It also teaches students to think critically and apply what they have learned in different situations. Similarly, school-based assessment shifts the focus to testing higher thinking skills. On top of that, comparing languages, mathematics, and science learning with international studies. Students will be taught a curriculum that is compared to the standards of a high-performance education system. Plus, the government will set and track performance goals for the international PISA and TIMSS exam. The second strategy is ensuring all students is skillful in Bahasa Malaysia and English language and is encouraged to learn a new additional language. As of 2016, the ministry requires as English SPM paper as a prerequisite. The ministry also will extend the Linux program to add English skills. Plus, upskill English teachers is important too. Each student has to be taught English by a teacher who meets global language standards. Furthermore, encourage all students to learn a second language by 2025. The ministry will expand the list of teachers in Chinese, Tamil, and Arabic, focusing on ensuring that the range of teachers meets the needs of the students. The third strategy is transform teaching into the profession of choice. According to international studies, teachers' quality is the most important school factor affecting student performance. One implementation is to raise teacher admission limits up to the top 30% of graduates started from 2013. Teachers are only hired if they are the best candidates for the future. Plus, teachers will be focused on their core function, which resulting them to have less administrative work to do. In addition, by 2016, the career path of teachers in leadership, master teaching, and specialist role will be improved. They can choose from a variety of exciting career paths depending on their skills, interests, and possibilities. The fourth strategy is transforming ministry delivery capabilities and capacity. The first actions taken after 2013 will give JPN and PPD more budget and staff decision-making, as well as more responsibility to improve student performance. Plus, JPN and PPD have stronger authority to make important operational decisions in the financial sector, such as staffing, school maintenance, and the appointment of school directors. The ministry will also invest more in training district and state officials to help perform these individual tasks. The ministry is working with key agencies, especially JPA, to clearly define the ministry revised functions, staffing, reporting lines, and how the transition will take place. The fifth strategy is developing values-driven Malaysians. According to the blueprint, the ministry will improve Islamic and moral education, focus more on unity, and promote stronger bonds between Malaysian students. For example, as part of the newly designed KSSR and KSSM curriculum, all elementary and high school students need to provide community services. Apart from that, strengthen moral education for non-Muslim students and Islamic curriculum for Muslim students by learning values related to unity and focusing on building good relationships between students. Then, develop students as a whole by strengthening the requirements for each student to participate in sports, clubs, and uniform body.
Evaluation on the effectiveness of the education policy SWOT. The first one is trend. By ensuring that each youngster is fluent in both Malaysian and English, also encourage them to improve our language skill to make learning the language is natural for them. It also helps them to graduate and become more employable. Formulation. As a general to be better equipped as citizens of the developed nation, it is necessary to instill the habit of using English as second language. Language is a tool and should not be stand-alone subject. As Malaysian, we should neglect the Malay language because it is our national language, and each citizen should be aware and be fluent in it. We also need to learn additional language as this country is a multiracial country. Multilingual employees have more value to the workplace and they are also important members with their skill to the organization. A multilingual ability is a competitive skill today to find in a career because they promote the development of strong cognitive abilities such as concept formation, mental flexibility, multitasking, listening flexibility, and problem solving, as well as social engagement and peer relationship. The second one is the weakness. In order to add more language in Malaysia system learning, there will be a need to add newer syllabus content. This will lead to confusion for teacher and student because of the new syllabus. This will lead to poor learning performance because of sudden changes. Also will be experienced in the different language that will be used in school and real application. In order to expanding obligatory training to both preschool and secondary education will hesitate a significant expenditure, but there are also specific criteria in the plans for how this money will be raised. This will create difficulty for children with all syllabus to learn new things in such a short notice. Not all students are able to adapt the new language because students have their own level of comprehension. Obligate the third language as one of the factors to get a job in the future may be a burden. Okay, the third one is the opportunity. The educational system will also work in becoming more adaptable to provide them with proper educational paths that is tailored to their talents, hobby, and learning style. In the end, Malaysia's educational system will be improved, shift from a school-based to one that encourages family and community in ensuring every kid has more favorable and effective in learning environment as possible. This is critical to ensuring that each children, regardless of background, has an equal opportunity and equal access to school as well as studying in the best possible environment. ministry goal is to assist each kid in exploring self-privilege, utilizing existing abilities, and directing oneself in the correct way to realize one's full potential. This education aims to assist students in developing abilities that they will need to face the challenge to the 21st century. The ministry will ensure that every kid, regardless of ethnicity, socio-economic status, or geographic location, has the chance to get an education at least once a year. The fourth one is threat. To begin with, there are several obstructions in the way of education policy, since some states, such as West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu, oppose the three-language approach because making Hindi a compulsory language will be perceived as an invasion of people living south of India. There is also plans and opinion where the construct of school system that require Chinese and Indian children to study Mandarin and Tamil. The Malay student will this topic as elective course. Okay, the next part is recommendation. The first one is relationship between teachers and students. Students need share their story with their professor and friends. If they are in difficulty, people in school will naturally help them. Teachers are compelled to arrange their students to study in group. Partnership is without doubt in other factor who influence teacher preparation to heterogeneous society. When students are given an assignment, teachers should offer clear comments so that they are not confused, and they must be directed. We also need to explain the mission to them and have a conversation with them about it. Teachers must demonstrate to their pupils that they are attentive and eager to teach them if they do not comprehend anything about their assignment or lesson. The second one is approaches in the class. School environments should encourage everyone to practice their culture in a positive way. Students are encouraged to express their social and cultural experience. Teachers who want to be a role model for their students should start emphasizing culture learning in a various method. Teachers in Malaysia diverse ethnic culture may instruct their students are learning by referring to a curriculum that is mandated by the country. Teacher and student need to work together to better understand one another in the classroom. To attain healthy method of approaching the classroom, teacher and student should learn to better understand each other, to be sensitive to other feelings, to encourage and sustain racial harmony, and to strive for a strong sense of community. Okay, the fourth one is parent. As a parent, we must consider our children's future and must join another race. They are accountable for promoting their children's value of harmony. As a teacher, we must be willing to engage in face-to-face interaction with parents and pupils. This is a significant benefit for the national school in terms of recognizing student difficulty. Teacher and parent can ensure that the school environment remains safe and secure, allowing students and youngsters to study more quickly and pleasantly. Parents must keep track in their children's work, and teachers must reply intelligently when parents ask for assistance. Teachers are required to submit all their student grades to their parents. Okay, so for the last one is preparation for teacher. Teachers are in higher education in part of the national school system, which require multicultural education in order to foster student unity. This presents responsibility to teach our next generation with the proper value and moral convention after they have chosen a vocation. To improve education among their students, teachers should use multicultural context when teaching because people are currently ahead of prior students. Teacher must have a wealth of information. Teacher must have some general knowledge as well as in-depth understanding of their field in order to avoid this from happening. Teacher must be qualified for dedication in order to educate. They should be aware that what has to be learned and processed with an effective and meaningful lesson.
In conclusion, education can be a path of unity. It happened because we combine all races in Malaysia in one national schools. In order to foster harmony, all racial, religious and cultural barriers should be removed. We are all working together to construct a country that is interconnected. All students must be educated equally without bias. Educators must also be committed in educating their students, since they are important to the country's future. We believe that a national school is a place where children may be raised to embrace any culture in their everyday life, as well as a place where they can successfully participate in unified society. In reality, the national education strategy can meet the needs of the country both and in the future. That's all for our group. Thank you.